Met that dude Duke the jeweler the night before. We was gambling. The next day, dude followed us to the concert. When we left out the concert, we under the garage. Dude went to his car by himself and walked down to the parking lot. That's when somebody tried.
A jeweler named Duke recently got killed, and the story's really messed up. So I want you to talk about what happened.
He's the one that's tied to the dude that makes the loaded dice, right? Check the play out. All entertainers, when you go to Houston, stay away from J. Prince Jr. The whole play going on. Here go the play right here. The play is a loaded dice.
Blood-stained dice slid across a velvet table like a slow-motion warning. Smiles were flashing, drinks were flowing, but only one man would make it out alive. Duke the jeweler didn't go out broke. He went out surrounded by sharks dressed as friends. Now there's blood on Mob Ty's hands. And the feds? Oh, they're watching every move. Duke wasn't robbed in some dark alley by masked strangers. Nah, he got executed in plain sight right after leaving Boosie's dice game. He was surrounded by folks who were all dapping him up 1 minute, then possibly signaling his fate the next. And now, those same faces are feeling the heat, caught in the federal crosshairs. And guess who's stirring the pot? 50 Cent, reposting cryptic receipts, dropping clues, and hinting that this setup runs way deeper than anyone imagined. But here's what makes it straight up cinematic. This all went down just 2 weeks before Takeoff was killed under shockingly similar dice game circumstances. Yeah, same energy. And guess who was at the center of that game too? Duke. He was the one shutting down the dice table at a J. Prince Jr. event. And when the wrong guy starts winning in that circle, that's when everything flips. Now the whole Mob Ties squad, Boosie, J. Prince Jr., Lil Cam, all of them, they're on law enforcement's radar. What started off as whispers is now building into a full-blown storm. So how did we even end up here? Time to zoom all the way out, because what looked like just a high-stakes hangout may have been a setup from the jump. From the outside, Duke the jeweler looked like he was living the dream. Chicago-born, self-made, built his entire brand from scratch. This wasn't just some dude handing out cheap chains to SoundCloud rappers. Duke was crafting luxury pieces for real names, heavy hitters. His rep in the game was solid and rising fast. And he didn't come to Houston just to party. He came for the bag. Allegedly, Boosie invited him down personally to discuss a custom piece. So Duke rolled through, $1 million Louis duffel in hand, filled with top-tier designs, ready to do real business. But instead of closing a deal, he walked into a deadly trap. What Duke didn't realize was that meeting, it wasn't just about jewelry, it was setting the stage for his final goodbye. Let's zoom in on that dice game because, according to leaked audio straight from WAC 100, and yes, that's a voice with serious street ties, this wasn't your average roll-for-fun moment. This was an operation, allegedly run by none other than J. Prince Jr. Word is, J. Prince Jr. heads what's now being called a loaded dice ring. And peep this, there's always the same 3 names locked in at that table. Lil Cam, Big Capri, and Wolf. The same trio, rotating the dice like it's some kind of sacred handoff, a ritual, a hustle. And guess what? The house always wins, unless somebody messes up the rotation.
Man, Lord,
You supposed to be mad today.
man, about to drop it. Oh, you mad? Oh, yeah.
That nigga gonna have $1,000 on here.
Well, guess what happened that night? According to WAC, Duke somehow got his hands on the dice he wasn't supposed to touch. And those dice, they were rigged. But Duke, he started catching fire, racking up back-to-back wins, hundreds, thousands, then tens of thousands, fast. And that's not just a streak, that's a problem for anyone running a rigged setup. When someone breaks the system, the folks behind it don't just lose money, they freak out. Let's talk numbers. Word on the street is J. Prince Jr. allegedly takes a 30% cut from every single dice night haul. So when Duke started draining the pot, that wasn't just bad luck. That was a financial threat. Now add in Duke's vibe that night. Big energy, loud confidence, decked out in diamonds, tossing cash like it was nothing. He was flexing heavy and recording every second for Instagram. And then things took a weird turn. freeze frame that dice game footage and look close, you'll catch Boosie letting out a soft whistle, not loud or dramatic, just enough to draw attention. Right after that, his nephew locks eyes with Duke. Then, another guy in a red hoodie taps Boosie's nephew on the arm like a cue. That moment, that's when the whole vibe in the room shifts. The energy goes cold, the smiles fade, and from that point on, nothing felt like just a game anymore. 1 second, Duke was laughing, cracking jokes, tossing dice like it was just another night in the spotlight. Then suddenly, the energy snapped. You could feel it in the air like a countdown had started. And just minutes later, Duke was dead. This wasn't paranoia. This was real-life tension that you don't need words to feel. It was all in the body language. When someone walks into a room full of people who already know how the night's gonna end, yeah, the vibe don't lie. Duke walked into a trap wearing $1 million in jewels, but he didn't realize he was already the target. Still not convinced this wasn't just a bad roll of the dice? Ask yourself, why would Boosie, a millionaire with status, bring Duke, another high-profile guest rocking over $1 million in jewelry, into a dice game with no security? Why did Jay Prince Jr., the so-called shot caller, not set up any protection for an out-of-town guest holding that much heat? Now rewind the tape. Watch Duke leaving the game. No security, no squad, no ride waiting. Just him, alone, walking through a dark Houston parking lot after being surrounded by stacks of cash and enough jewelry to buy a mansion. That don't sit right, and that's because it isn't right. Then it gets real. Just minutes after leaving, gunshots light up the night. Duke is ambushed and fatally hit. Now, in most setups or stick-ups gone wrong, the first thing the shooters snatch, the cash, the jewels. But Duke, he was found with everything still on him, all of it. That same 7-figure jewelry he wore on stage at Boosie's concert, still on his body. So what kind of robbery leaves millions untouched? The kind that was never about robbery in the first place.
Time, but never gave up. I stayed tough, even when I got my chain stuck. Go through hard time, but we know that what made us. Can't blame us, we love the script, cause that what paid us. Yeah, ain't gotta ask, I know them niggas laid up. I call Kill, I get the picture, they going where I'm up. I can't even find, you know how many nights I done stayed up. Know how many fucking.
Now for the real mic drop, the Louis Vuitton bag. The one holding Duke's unreleased custom designed jewelry, the bag he brought to do real business. It didn't disappear, it resurfaced. Not in some alley, not at a pawn shop, but inside Boosie's own house. Let that sink in. Houston PD confirmed it. That bag, packed with Duke's most valuable work, ended up inside the very home of the man who invited him down. Now, whether Duke handed Boosie the bag for safekeeping during the game, or Boosie ended up with it after everything went down, that is a question that's got a whole lot of people side-eyeing everything. We might not know all the details yet, but one thing's dead clear. The bag made it back to Boosie. Duke didn't. And how did Boosie respond to the whole thing? With a shaky Instagram live, filmed from a plane, claiming he barely knew Duke and saying Duke just walked off. Really?
Some dude tried to rob him. Some dudes tried to rob him. Some dudes had tried to rob me and walked off by himself. I had just met dude yesterday. Some bitch tried to rob dude, man. Dude must ain't get up.
Spokesman Flight Zach, we're number 2 for departure. Flight attendants, please bear the captain.
Just met dude.
Hold up, you barely knew him. But didn't you say Duke was making you a custom chain? So now it's, I didn't know him like that, after you invited him to a private dice game, let him flex with over $1 million in jewelry, and then watched him walk to his car alone in a city he didn't even live in? Man, something ain't adding up here.
He must have walked outside to the parking lot. We was in the garage. We heard this. But it like they was far away in the parking lot. He must have went to his car or something, bro. Dude was finna make a piece for him too. Damn.
And let's not lie, Boosie didn't look like someone cool under pressure. Dude looked pale, nervous, shook. And if that felt suspicious, it only gets darker. See, the feds had already been circling Boosie for other legal issues, but Duke's death, That made them switch gears fast. They peeled off Duke's case and launched a separate federal investigation with no delays, no distractions, just laser focus on what went down that night. And that's when the game changed. First thing they did, they tracked Duke's phone. And guess where the last ping came from? Boosie's recording studio. Now, unless Duke's phone had legs and walked there by itself, somebody in Boosie's circle took it. And they didn't even try to clean it up. No factory reset, no SIM swap, just turned it off like nobody would notice. But the feds noticed, and now they were heated. Next move, they tore through Duke's rental car. And what did forensics find? Fingerprints belonging to Boosie's nephew and Boosie's cousin. That's not just suspicious, that's a direct connection. And right when it couldn't get messier, a witness steps forward. Someone who was just outside the building smoking came to authorities and said they saw Duke, alone, walking toward his car. No crew, no security, no escort, just a man leaving a dice game stacked with tension, walking straight into the night. Everything seemed calm at first. Quiet parking lot, no signs of trouble. But then, out of nowhere, Boosie's nephew slid out from the shadows. It looked like he'd been waiting, like it was planned. Duke clearly sensed something wasn't right. Allegedly, he swung first, trying to protect himself. He wasn't about to go down without a fight, but he never had a real chance. With one fast move, Boosie's nephew allegedly pulled the trigger. And here's the chilling part. They didn't even try to stage a robbery. They didn't snatch the chain, didn't grab the cash. Why? Because it was never about money. It was about silencing him. And instead of disappearing with the loot like most setups, they kept the bag. That ain't sloppiness, that's arrogance. And guess who's been paying attention to all of it? 50 Cent. You ever notice how every time an artist hits Houston, there's always that same warning? Make sure you check in. It ain't official, it ain't written down, but it's real. Rappers, influencers, even athletes, they've all heard it. If you pull up in Houston without checking in with J. Prince Jr. and the Mob Ties circle, you're playing with fire. But here's the cold truth no one wants to admit. What happens when the people you're checking in with are the ones setting you up? Let's not forget, J. Prince Jr. hosted that dice game. The same dice game Duke pulled up to. The same kind of game where Takeoff ended up dead. That so-called check-in culture, it flipped from protection to suspicion, because if J. Prince Jr. really had the city on lock like he says, then how come two men are gone, both under his roof? Even Whack 100 had to speak up.
Act like he's covering for him, hanging out, everything is cool. Let's go here, let's go there, let's go here, let's go there. He introduces the dice game. He got three mother, right, who rotate the dice. Now these dice is loaded. Tell me it's a Wolf, Big Caprice, and watch this, and Little Cam are the loaded dice rotators, right? He said what? There was a situation that occurred that a certain jeweler around and got past the dice on accident and was hitting on them for a couple hundred. They got irritated about that. I ain't gonna go too far into that story because, right, boom. The only way they could get their money back was however their money back. He said, but Lil Cam, Wolf, and Big Caprice are the three designated to say I'm up, I got the next, and they pass the dice to each other, but they loaded. But
he called the whole thing a scam ring flat out. Said J. Prince Jr. invites celebs, plays the role of the homie, gets them comfortable, then leads them straight into dice games where his people are already in place. It's like a setup masked as hospitality.
I gotta do my research, see what Judah might have been down there shooting dice. But nevertheless, to all the entertainers, you know, Dukes of Hazzard was one of my favorite shows, right? I don't know if y'all watched that. I was thinking about Daisy Dukes for a reason. I don't know why I said that. You know, one might go with it, may not go with it, but I don't know. If the math is math, and let it math. But entertainers, beware of with J. Prince Jr. when he talked about let's go shoot some dice. Because the loaded dice crew of three, Lil Cam, Wolf, and Big Caprice. We know Lil Cam in there because I believe somehow, some way, he was caught up in the dice situation. Rest in peace, Takeoff. I don't know what's going on. But what I do know is this, J. Prince Jr. got a whole thing, and when y'all come into town, hold on, bro. Didn't they say Fifth Ward earlier that day shooting dice?
Yep.
That's a
Yep.
fact. That word been out, Wack. That word been out. We been had that memo.
And then, so they've been getting hit all day, and it got to the point at the thing, Quavo like getting into dice. That's what this nigga Jay Prince Jr., boy, these niggas got all kind of shit going on down there. They say, he said the jeweler nigga got past the dice. He didn't even know the motherfuckers was loaded. He just think he hit. These niggas is mad as a motherfucker. Cause they like, nigga, how you pass this nigga the loaded dice? Hold up.
Now the industry's starting to react. Word is some artists are quietly pulling back, canceling appearances, avoiding Houston, and telling labels don't book it. The city's becoming radioactive. Even 50 Cent has started airing it out, reposting clips, using slick captions, and calling out the whole game. Some say he's poking the hornet's nest. Others, they think 50's just the only one with enough backbone to say what everyone else is scared to admit. Sources are saying Boosie's sweating heavy right now. The feds aren't just poking around. They've separated Duke's case from Boosie's past gun charges and are now digging deep into that one specific night when Duke lost his life. They've started tracing everything, his mansions, his money moves, even his son's digital trail. But here's where it gets wild. The chaos might not be coming from outside. It might be starting inside his own house. Allegedly, Boosie's own girlfriend told someone he ran back inside that night looking shook, like he was hiding something. Meanwhile, Boosie keeps posting, smiling, acting like he don't know a thing. Cool face on the gram, full panic in real life.
You know, every party I throw gambling parties and shit in there. Dude was gambling, they trying to make false reps like the dude beat somebody out of some money, but the dude actually lost his money, bro. Ain't nobody really win, you know what I'm saying? Like, dude lost his money and, you know, four dude left, dude was like, man, I won't make a piece for you. Woo-de-woo. I'm like, nigga, make me a gold piece, you know?
That's the only thing he keeps repeating like a script. I don't know what happened. I didn't see nothing. I barely knew Duke. Over and over. But people are starting to ask, if Boosie goes down, who's going with him?
The arena under where we was, it was on side the parking lot, so he had to walk to his car. And that's where the incident took place when somebody, you know, tried to get him or whatever. But Vlad, bro, if anybody know me, bro, that ain't my stilo, bro. You know what I'm saying? That ain't how I get down, bro. Like, that ain't how none of my people get down. And that's just the bottom line. That's shit that we wouldn't do. And, you know, we was fucked up about it because obviously they were watching us. You know, obviously they were waiting for anybody to walk across that parking lot to them cars and get in them cars. So, you know, it could have been one of...
Because let's be real, Boosie don't roll solo. His nephew is tangled in this. His cousin's prints were found in the car, and now his name is floating right alongside Jay Prince Jr., who's already under pressure after what happened with Takeoff. These threads, they're all crossing in one place, that dice game table. And now it's turning into a web that's hard to escape. And just when you thought it couldn't get messier, here comes Finesse 2 times. Yep, the same artist Mob Ties was riding for just a while back. Now, he switched his whole tone. Went from giving Junior shout-outs in interviews to barely even saying his name. Something behind the scenes definitely shifted. At first it looked low-key. Finesse just stopped showing up. No more concerts, no backstage hangs, no public support. Then the whispers started. Word is it all started over a woman. But not just any woman. Finesse's baby mama. A few months back, she and her mother allegedly lined him up, called the cops on him, and got him locked back up for violating probation. So now the fallout ain't just legal, it's personal. The same Mob Ties circle that once had his back, he's keeping his distance. Loyalty is cracking, lines are shifting, and the silence from certain people, that's louder than any diss track. And guess who stepped in to pull the strings and get Finesse 2 times out? Jay Prince Sr. himself. Yep, behind the scenes, the OG made a few quiet calls, flexed his power, and just like that, Finesse was back on the streets within 2 weeks. But instead of showing respect or even a hint of gratitude, Finesse did the unthinkable. He went right back to the same girl that allegedly lined him up in the first place. That's when J. Prince Sr. hit his breaking point. He jumped on Twitter and let it fly. No filters, no sugarcoating. He said it straight up. I told the homie to stay the FK away from that woman if he loves his life, but the homie wouldn't listen to my words, even after I stepped in to get him out of prison. Y'all better be careful out here thinking these women got your best interest at heart. That wasn't just advice. That was a warning from a man who's been in the game long enough to know when a setup's around the corner. But it didn't stop there. This is where things spiraled. Rumors started bubbling that J. Prince Jr. might have gotten Finesse's girl pregnant behind his back. Now, is it confirmed? Nah, but the fact that the streets are whispering and Finesse hasn't denied any of it, that silence says a lot. When the rumors get that loud and the person involved won't even speak on it, that tells you the situation's too real to play with. Some fans brushed it off like typical drama, but others, they started connecting dots. Patterns were forming. This wasn't just beef, it was personal betrayal stacking on top of public scandal. And now the spotlight's back on J. Prince Jr. Again, first it was Takeoff, now this. Too many stories, too many bodies, and too many secrets for it all to just be coincidence. Behind the scenes, J. Prince Jr. is clashing with Boosie, and now Finesse 2 times is publicly spiraling. People are starting to ask the real question. How many bridges can you burn before your whole empire crumbles to ash? Because when your rep is built on fear, silence, and behind-the-curtain power moves, all it takes is one person to flip. One artist, one homie, one witness, and the whole foundation collapses. Now eyes are on the clock. Will it be Boosie who talks first? Will Finesse finally come clean and spill what really went down? Or will 50 Cent, who's been locked in on exposing mob ties like a man on a mission, push J. Prince Jr. into a corner so tight that he does the unthinkable, break the code of silence to save himself? One thing's for sure, the collapse has already started. What used to be whispers in back rooms are now sounding like federal knocks at the door. Agents are quietly making moves, tracking Boosie's every asset, checking his full estate portfolio, peeking into his Baton Rouge mansion, and following the paper trail all the way to his Georgia land. They're not just investigating anymore, they're surveilling, watching every step, every dollar. But this ain't just about Boosie. This storm has J. Prince Jr.'s name written all over it too. Artists are distancing themselves. Labels are pulling back. No more handshakes, no more loyalty. This ain't rap beef anymore. This is RICO energy. Real consequences, real indictments. And with Duke's possible killer allegedly caught on tape, all it takes is one person, one leak, one flash drive, one deal with TMZ or the feds. The moment that footage drops, it's game over. Please subscribe, share, and like. See you on the next one.